Hello, and welcome to Ready.Set.Midmarket. We're a podcast for the latest news and information from mid-market IT executives. I'm Samara Lynn, Senior Editor of mescomputing.com. My usual co-host, Adam Dennison, who is the Vice President of Midsize Enterprise Services at the Channel Company, which is our parent company, is out on personal leave. We miss Adam, but we're happy to welcome our guest co-host, Wade Millward, who is a Senior Associate Editor covering cloud computing and all these important topics at our sister site, CRN, the most in-depth publications are covering the channel. So Wade, thank you so much for being here and joining with us and for pinch hitting for Adam.
Oh, absolutely. You traded up, Samara.
Thank you. And so our topic for discussion today is we're talking about cyber threat intel, which is kind of a new concept for me. And we have two great experts on the topic. And I want to introduce them right now. We have, please welcome Jawahar Sivasankaran, who is the president of cybersecurity firm Cyware. And if with his permission, we're going to refer to him as Jawa throughout the interview. Hi, Jawa, welcome. And then we have Christopher J. Walsh, who is the vice president and CISO for Security Mutual Life Insurance Company of New York. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you both. So I'm just going to ask you both, and maybe we'll start with you, Jawa. Just tell us a little bit of background about yourselves, and maybe, Jawa, if you can tell us a little bit about Cyware and your experience in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And Christopher, it's truly a pleasure to join you today doing this discussion. So I've been in the cybersecurity industry for 27 years now. I've recently joined Cyware about 6 months back as the president of the company, leading all of the go-to-market functions as well as product strategy and driving our vision into the marketplace. As I mentioned, I've been in this industry for a while, but also very relevant subdomain experience from the past leadership experience with where we play, security operations, SOC, all of that I've been exposed to in my past life. So super excited to be here at Cyware, driving cyber threat intelligence forward. That's what we do. In its core is we operationalize cyber threat intelligence. That's what we do. There are a few things that enable that vision that help us drive that vision and make it a reality for customers and organizations that are leveraging our platform. And super excited to discuss some of those things with Christopher.
Great. Thanks, Jawa. And we'll get into a little bit more about, the CTI and what Cyware's role is in that. Thank you. And Christopher, can you just tell us a bit about your background, your bio, your experiences?
Sure. So I've been with the Security Mutual Life Insurance Company of New York since 2001. And prior to that, I was in some consulting roles with the government. And prior to that, I was United States Air Force, stationed at some stateside bases overseas, as well as the Pentagon for a couple of years. After my military stint of 7.5 years, I moved into some consulting roles, mainly surrounding security. So actually, I came into the IT industry roughly around the same time as you did, Jawahar, about 27 years ago, and maybe a couple of years before that into some IT stuff, but not much. And security has been pretty much extensive throughout my information technology career anyway. I've been the CISO at Security Mutual Life Insurance since about 2017, I believe, but I've been with the company for 24 years last month.
Okay, awesome. Sounds like we have the right people to talk about this subject.
And you mentioned his domain experience too. Yeah, I've been in a lot of different roles in information security. And as even before I was in information security, when I worked at the Pentagon, I was in information security there. And as a consultant, I did everything from personnel security to, SCIFs and things like that. Just a lot of different domain experience as well. But I do love the topic, and I love corresponding and collaborating with peers in the industry.
Well, let's just delve right into the subject. Cyber threat intelligence, and I've been in this space for probably about as long as you and Christopher. It's kind of a new concept, a new term for me, and we have a very technologically savvy audience, and I'm sure they probably know better than I do. But can you just recap what exactly is cyber threat intelligence? And how does it differ from all of the cybersecurity information bells and whistles that organizations already get from all these tools and software solutions?
Happy to start there. If you look at how cybersecurity has evolved in the last, let's say, 30-ish years since internet came about in the mid 90s, right? Let's say Netscope as a browser came about, which was a pivotal moment, early mid 90s. What was initially the focus on cybersecurity technologies was what was traditionally perimeter security, firewalls, intrusion detection, prevention systems, all of that. They did their job relatively well, VPN, ads, things like that. They did their job relatively well. Then fast forward 10 plus years, clearly there was a need to analyze data because there are events happening. There are alerts that security professionals have to look at, prioritize for them to respond. So then came about technologies like log management, event management. Then all of that kind of got consolidated into traditional SIM tools, security information event management tools. But clearly, as what we've seen in the last, let's say, decade or so, that idea of managing security operations SOC with some of those tools, which is look at all data coming in and then you're processing that data, kind of what you hear, looking for a needle in the haystack, right? And that haystack keeps growing. So where things have shifted, pivoted in the last, I would say 5, 6, 7 years, or probably in the last decade is I want to take a more threat-centric approach to this model. Rather than going after all the data that's coming in, let me look at high fidelity threat events that are actually happening. Where am I exposed? Who are the adversaries that are coming at me? Do I see my peers in my same sector or my industry facing the same challenge? What opportunities exist for me to collaborate with that threat intelligence? And then how do I action based on that threat intelligence that I'm seeing? So that's, I wouldn't say it's new, it's still emerging in some ways, but it has hit a maturity point right now in 2025 that not just the largest enterprises, kind of that's where it started 10 years ago, leveraging cyber threat intelligence, but we are seeing lower end of the enterprise segment and mid-market as well, clearly seeing, hey, my legacy tools are not working, my threats are growing, adversaries are getting a lot more difficult for me to manage. I got to action and automate some of the responses, and I got to do it based on the threats that I'm seeing. So clearly what we've seen in the last 3-4 years is that, hey, this is not just a Fortune 500 problem to tackle. This is clearly for everybody to see. What was new and emerging a few years ago, now it has definitely hit a maturity point where the value of CTI, cyber threat intelligence, as a program, not just the tools, but tools, technology, people, processes all coming together, is very, very much relevant and important for organizations of all sizes.
You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, if you think about the way it's evolved, right, the last 20 years, especially actually the last 10 even, and we get information about a new ransomware actor, or we get another threat, and you buy tools. That's what we did. We bought tools to put out those fires, right, or to protect you against those threats, right? But as you said, they keep evolving. I've personally seen and just noticed, just through the course of the last 10 years, buying the tools, you can't keep up with it. That's just whack-a-mole. And initially, we were getting a lot of pressure. I was thinking a lot of companies were getting pressure to standardize with one major platform like a Microsoft or a Cisco or a main technology that has all these tools built in. But as we found through looking at those technologies, they were good at some things and they were bad at others. Right? We adopted it like other companies did, best of breed type of solutions. This one did this one well. This one did that one well. But then that became what? It became burdensome in cost in managing all those tools. So now we're seeing kind of a pivot or recommendations from a lot of vendors to centralize and go back to those major platforms again. The CTI is basically information that helps us understand who's going after our vertical and what types of threats are coming at us. How are they evolving? Is there AI involved? Is there different techniques and targets and stuff? So we're kind of finding out from them, from these variety of tools of threat and information, what's out there, what's coming at us, and what types of verticals are they hitting? Financial, are they hitting the healthcare industry, et cetera, right? And then that helps us actually better prepare for in budget cycles, right? Because I don't do long-term contracts with security companies just because they come and go, right? And they've proven their effectiveness over time and ineffectiveness as well, unfortunately. So it helps you prepare to be more, I guess, to be more reactive, or I'm sorry, more strategically led than reactive, reacting to this latest thing. Go put another tool in place to help protect against that. So I definitely agree on the evolution of how cybersecurity and these threats, it's changed the pace of how we're defending, right? And I think that the more intelligence that we get through these tools, the better. Because especially, I think one of the things you wanted to talk about was like, why are mid markets? Why is that an area that we should be concerned about ingesting this threat information? I feel like if you can get all this information into a platform and make it actionable, that's great. That's where automation comes in. Speaking of tools too, as well, you've also noticed this big change where a lot of these tools that are helping companies now are building in their automation through SOAR type of implementations, like your CrowdStrikes and your Rapid7s. And I find that extremely valuable as well. And those subscriptions are also, including a lot of the CTI that we're speaking of today.
And a great points, right? In terms of vendor sprawl, tool sprawls, Christopher, we've gone through perimeter security, firewalls, IDS, IPS. Then we have other things, EDR, vulnerability management tools, right? Data security tools. Obviously, the last 5-6 years, cloud security tools, right? From CSPM, CNAP, CWPP. So you got enough tools in the marketplace. But what I think, as an industry we've missed is, focusing on that high fidelity, high priority items. And this comes down to the threats that you're facing and the response that you should be taking. And this is true, very similar to what we see in our day-to-day lives, if you will, right? You want to take action on the right things.
Wade, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like you said, Samara, I'm coming over from CRN, so I'm always interested in the distribution side of this, and I'm curious. I guess I'll kind of get us into the AI question that was inevitably going to right. So Christopher, I mean, your version of it I'm interested in is, do you work with a lot of partners, a lot of humans? Are you interested in where AI is taking sort of that automation equation? And then we can flip it to Jawa in terms of how you're, as a vendor, working with both humans and AI. But yeah, I'll start with you, Christopher.
I've been doing a lot of studies on this subject. The biggest question that I get is, do you think that we're being attacked with software or manipulations of, using AI as part of their tactic? And that's a hard one to really prove. I can tell you that the volume has definitely increased, and the sophistication you can and cannot do with AI, or actually just knowing what you can do. I'd be shocked if we weren't, if that wasn't happening. The defenses are the defenses. You just have to make sure that you have layers of defense, and security awareness is a huge one. That's a weapon that, just rinse and repeat, educate, because they do get through occasionally, right? We're talking about phishing emails, the number one vector for a data breach. As far as AI goes, I mean, there's no definitive proof that I've seen, but the volume has increased significantly, and the sophistication of these attacks have lead me to believe that that's got to be part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And Jawa, how about as a vendor, right? What would you like Christopher to know about how you're using, the AI era? How important are humans still going to be in that information distribution?
Yeah, a few things that we are seeing, right? We're already seeing adversaries leveraging AI to go deeper and broader with some of the attack strategies that they've used in the past. So clearly the TTPs have evolved. There's an AI component that they're using. That's number one. Number two, with the adoption of AI tools by enterprises, by mid-market organizations, the threat vectors are changing, and now there's an AI element to it. It could be attacks on the LLMs itself. It could be attacks on applications that are leveraging AI. It could be any of that. So new threat vectors that are emerging, which we are starting to see. And then the third one is leveraging AI for better security outcomes. So there are multiple angles to this. One is the security for AI. One is for the other one is AI for security. And then how the adversaries are starting to use AI itself for their own purposes. So the last bit that I mentioned, leveraging AI for security or betterment of security, especially as it relates to cyber threat intelligence, we are in the forefront of that journey. What we are doing at Cyware is we are taking a focused approach. What we don't want to do is go after the easy button, which in some ways we could have gone out and built a couple of LLM wrappers to solve specific SecOps problems, right? SOC bots, if that's kind of how I call it, right? There's still value in it, make no mistake about it. But the true value that somebody like us that we can bring to our customers and organizations using us is leveraging AI in a way where it is connected to the cyber threat intelligence framework, so that when you're leveraging AI for CTI functionalities, looking at high priority threats that you have to go after, prioritizing them, or automating the action that you want to take based on AI or leveraging AI as a tool itself. So that's what we are doing. Again, focus on who we are, focus on our strengths, and then we want to operationalize cyber threat intelligence. And now AI is an added layer that goes on top of that. And it's also getting integrated in so that it's not a bolt on all the times. It's a built in as well in many of the areas that we are working. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're staying true to our roots, which is operationalizing cyber threat intelligence.
I think that as these tools develop, like your big companies, your small companies, that they build in those AI components to help us defend, because anomalous behavior and anomalous detections, especially, and being able to look at large amounts of data and make some noise out of it and have a high fidelity in those detections as well. And that's especially important for smaller firms. I would in mid-level markets, because you don't have a large SOC necessarily that's has a whole bunch of analysts that are looking at every little alert that comes through. So having tools and having CTI that is being ingested into these tools or provided as a service is huge, whether it be threat hunting services from an organization that you could contract with, or through tools like you mentioned. That's very valuable to an organization in defending it against modern threats, because it starts with anomalous type of activities, stuff that you might not see on the surface, and then it picks up. And having tools that are aware of that and can alert with high fidelity to reduce noise and analyst fatigue, if you will, that's huge.
One thing I want to ask, in Java, if I'm a CIO, is that something I can just get direct from your company, or are you mostly working with MSSPs?
We do both. From a commercial point of view, we do directly work with customers, but what we do prefer is working through a partner ecosystem. That's our preferred way. And it could be MSSPs, it could be large strategic partners that we work with. So absolutely the preferred route is to go through a partner ecosystem of some shape or form. And we have a long list of partners that we very closely work with.
Christopher, being a CISO, there's so many security solutions on the market now. Is there a danger of oversaturation of tools? What is priority for a mid-market IT leader?
I think priority would be, each organization should do an internal IT risk assessment to find out exactly where they line up against different threats, and calculate the risk when you come out of that, and then focus on those areas where you can make a good investment and get some quick wins. Obviously your endpoint, the perimeter is not the firewall anymore, as you alluded to earlier. So, penetration testing, assessments of your environment, they can show a lot of things and give you a lot of areas to focus on. But you have to have, obviously don't forget about your perimeter. It's still important. Don't forget about your cloud. A lot of companies actually just assume that because they put workloads out in AWS and Azure, it is good. It's not. It's just another data center. You still have to protect that. So you have to do like an overall corporate, a risk assessment of your environment and kind of prioritize where the findings are. Take a penetration test, for example, cast a wide net, find some things, make them into projects, and then focus on, gradual improvement over time. Turn all your findings into projects based on risk. Prioritize your investments. That's like the high level answer I think you have to give. That's what boards want to hear. They want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You're not just buying a tool for each little problem. Eventually you'll have a bunch of tools and no one to manage them, or not enough people to manage them, or burnout.
Right.
So yeah, just some thoughts there.
Wait, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, yeah. I'll ask you, Christopher, too, since you've got Jawa here. But I'm curious if you did have a message to all the intelligence providers out there. Like, is there something you would like to see that would improve like how you receive this information, or how you guys are able to implement the information? I mean, it doesn't have to involve AI, certainly, but I'm curious if there is actually things you see that can be improved.
Oh yeah, I got one that comes right to mind. You guys have all heard of the ISACs that are out there, right? There's one for almost every vertical, right? What would be nice was something, and maybe this is out there and I just gave up on it, and maybe I'm not sure. I can only keep up with so much, right? But you get so much information from these ISACs, and that's one of the ones that we count on the most. And there is, to a degree, you can sign up for what you want to consume, right? But it would be nice to be able to further refine that. They had a project a few years ago called Soltra. I don't know where that went, but it really wasn't there prime time. But I guess where I'm getting at is I believe that the information that comes out of these ISACs is priceless. It's good, really good information, right? It's me being able to refine the stuff that comes in, tweak out the stuff that was noise, and then take the rest and make it actionable by ingesting it into your SIM. I know that you can do these things with like, RPA and some Power Automate and some things like that. So it is possible, and we'll get there. We're just like every other company trying to maximize the projects and the time in a day, right? But it'd be nice if, since you asked, if that is an example. An ISAC, they should provide a mechanism of further tuning and automating and making actionable the CTI that you ingest as a company.
That's great feedback, Christopher. And as you all know, Cyware, we work closely with all of the major ISACs that's out there. And part of it is ISACs collaborating and doing the bidirectional threat sharing with the member community. At the end of the day, that's what it is, right? We want to move the industry with threat intelligence sharing. But Christopher, to your point about especially mid-market organizations getting the benefit of that information coming from the ISACs and turning that into action or prioritizing the right things that they want to focus on. So there are a few things at Cyware that we are working with the ISACs through the ISACs, but also directly with the broader enterprise mid-market base. And one of the things is the concept around unified threat intelligence management, or what we colloquially call a CTI in a box. Again, part of this is we want to democratize cyber threat intelligence. It's not just for the Fortune 100 enterprises. There's clear value that you see as we go down. And so because of that, what we are pushing is integrating more and more functionalities into the CTI program itself, or the unified threat intelligence platform that we have. That includes threat feeds, which typically these organizations have to go purchase them separately. That includes things like exposure management. Literally 2 weeks back, we launched compromised credential management that's integrated into CTI. So these were different islands of their own. And what we're doing is we're bringing them all together so that, especially if you're an organization in that tier where you might not have 200 InfoSec team members, right? You're probably having 5, 6, 10 security team members. And how do we help them get started with the CTI program? So there is a big focus for us there. But great feedback, Chris.
Thank you. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So, I want to thank you all for joining us. And I just want to know if anyone had any last thoughts they'd like to add on the subject or.
I mentioned threat hunting. I mean, there are some organizations out there that will perform proactive threat hunting services for you. And they could be fairly, obviously the cost range and all these different solutions, but there are some things like that where that's threat intelligence that they have far beyond the capabilities and knowledge of things that are going on with all the threat actors and their techniques and who they're targeting, and they can put searches in place in your platforms that you have to help make things run on a schedule and detect things based on intelligence that they consume and are providing to you as a service. So your organization is one, I'm sure, that probably does that, and there's a lot of others. It's not just about subscribing to a feed or a service like the ISACs. There are companies that are helping smaller companies like us and medium-sized and large companies develop threat hunting type of services or counterintelligence services, CTI type of engagements or services, automation, and I think that's valuable. It's huge for small firms because they don't necessarily have the staff that can actually create those detections or consume and then make things actionable without automation and help from these, as I mentioned. So that would be something that I would recommend.
Great point. And then that's part of what we're driving with the partner ecosystem. Clearly, we know that as we go below the Fortune, let's say thousands, there is a need for the partner ecosystem to come in and help our customers with threat hunting services or threat response services, automation services. So we do work with MSSPs. We do also work with other strategic partners that do offer this more of a hub and spoke type of model with CTI. So great point there. And Samara, if I can, finish it off, clearly my point again is threat intelligence has evolved so much in the last, especially in the last 5 years. And it is actually a critical element of the overall cybersecurity strategy for organizations of all sizes. And part of what we are driving is helping customers get started with that journey. Or maybe they already have some tools in the CTI world, but it's just not connected. So either we can get them started or we can mature them to the right level where they are seeing value from the investments that they've already made. But super excited to have had this conversation. And Christopher, it was a pleasure doing this with you.
Same. Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. And there you have it. This is a discussion about cyber threat intelligence, and especially at the mid-market level. And I want to thank Jawa, President and CEO of Cyware, and Christopher Walsh, CISO, mid-market IT executive. And of course, thank you, Wade, for stepping in as co-host last minute. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
And thank you. This was a great conversation. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody.